PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Do you ever feel like you're normal and the rest of the world has lost its collective mind?
Put your helmet on. We'll be reaching speeds of 3.
Do you find people saying this to you a lot?
Are you totally deranged?
Are you looking for a looking glass to pass through?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Or looking for a rabbit hole to fall down?
Who could think of a better punishment, really? Everything's the same here, it's just a little worse.
Guess what?
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
You found it. Welcome to Platinum Rose's Garden.
Well, hello, my darlings. This is Platinum Rose Lady welcoming you to Platinum Rose's Garden on Sunday, February 26th, 2017. Yes, I know, I'm a day late. Yes, I'm late. Don't panic. I'm not that kind of late. No, it's just I wasn't feeling very well yesterday, but I'm feeling better today. Better-ish, I suppose. Better being a state of mind. It's one of those things that happens every month or so if you're a woman. Men have no idea. None. They try. Bless them, they try. Mine tries. Mine is fantastic. He tries. Mostly he just kind of is like, can I do anything for you? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay. And doesn't press. He's really awesome like that. So, what's going on that we can talk about? Well, obviously the big thing going on this week is the Oscars, which is going on right now. The Academy Awards are going on today. Obviously, the other big thing this week was the Supernatural Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, which I hope everybody has a great time at. And let's talk about the Oscars for a minute. Oh, boy, the Oscars, where they give a little statue of a little naked gold man to people who star in movies that nobody saw. Oh, my gosh, that was so mean. It was accurate, but it was mean. It really can be really aggravating if you are a movie fan, like me and my husband. We are big movie people. We love movies. We love all kinds of movies. Good movies, bad movies, big movies, small movies. We love all kinds of movies. That's why the Oscars can be so gosh darn frustrating. Because we admit that we both like the big blockbuster movies, with explosions and giant robots and men in tights and capes. Or tights and shields. Chris Evans, if you're out there, call me. But those aren't the movies that are going to be nominated for the Oscars because, gasp, they're for the popular people. Oh my gosh, we can't have that, But we also like a lot of smaller movies, like really small independent movies. And those never get nominated either because maybe 20 people saw them. And that can get really friggin' aggravating because sometimes you find a movie that is so wonderful and you see it through, if you're like us and we go to film festivals a lot, you get to see them through film festivals. You call, you get in touch with the filmmakers and get screeners and things like that. And then you find this really awesome little movie. It's like this little tiny movie. And it's like finding gold or finding an uncut diamond. You have this beautiful thing in your hands. And if you're like us, me and my guy, when you find a really super cool movie, you want to share it. You want everybody to find out about this movie, and you want everybody to see this movie, and you want everybody to love this movie as much as you did. And sometimes you get really lucky and you tell other people about the movie and they're all like, oh wow, that sounds really cool. I'll try and find it. And then they find it and they love it as much as you did. And they come to you and they say, oh wow, I saw that movie that you told me about and it was so cool. And thank you for telling me. And you feel like, yay, you know, because you turned somebody else onto something that made you happy. And now you've like spread the happiness out. And that feels so awesome. That's the best feeling in the world. And then there's the flip side of that. When you find a really awesome movie and you talk about it to your friends and you say like, you know, oh, this movie's so awesome. You have to see it. It was so great. And then they see it and they tell you, yeah, I saw it. You know, and they're your friends. And you love them, but at that moment you want to smack them in the head because you're like, how can you be that fucking stupid that you don't see how brilliant this movie is, you cloth-eared idiot? You know, but they're your friends and you love them and they know secrets about you too, so it kind of all balances out. You know, you can't be too mad at them because they know where the skeletons are in your closet, just like you know where the skeletons are in theirs. Ain't friendship great? I've actually had that happen a few times where you tell somebody about a movie and it's, you know, it can be frustrating when you're like, they're like, I didn't get it, or I didn't think that was as cool as you did. And you're like, okay, all right, you know, sorry. You know, sometimes I feel bad. I feel like, oh my gosh, they wasted like 2 hours and like, you know, it's my fault and I feel like shit, you know, and then most of the time I do feel like you didn't get that movie. Pfft, sucks to be stupid like you, you know, which I obviously don't say to my friends because I'm a nice person. I think the hell out of it, but I don't say it. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. Obviously we have to talk about a little bit of superhero news that's been bouncing around for the last couple of days. There have been talks on, you know, it's popped up online and stuff like that. Obviously the superhero genre, big news. Anytime anything news coming out. And they're talking now, but they're seriously talking about doing a Nightwing feature film. For those of you who don't really know who that character is, and I can't believe any of you don't because you strike me as a smart bunch, Nightwing is the grown-up version of the Dick Grayson version of Robin. Dick Grayson eventually stopped being Robin and became Nightwing and went on to another town and became their resident superhero in a town called Bloodhaven. And Nightwing was also a member of the Teen Titans at one point and went on and became a grown-up superhero on his own, like I mentioned. And a few people have mentioned that they would like to see our own dear, sweet, lovable Jared Padalecki in the role of Nightwing. To which I'm like, fuck yeah, you know, Jared Padalecki in tights, you know, form-fitting outfit like that, sign me the fuck up. I guess Jared's also said he'd do it, which I'm like, that would rock. I do think he'd have to probably cut his hair a little bit. I don't think Nightwing's hair is quite as long as Jared's. I don't know. I mean, when you think about it, Wolverine's supposed to be 5'1", and Hugh Jackman, is not 5'1". That's something else I want to talk about with you guys real quick. Talking superhero movies, which is something I love to do. Did you ever see a trailer for a movie and you know you should be excited about it? You know, you're like, oh, I love this character, or I love this, you know, I love this franchise or whatever, and you see the trailer and you're like, nope. You know, you just like, nope, not feeling it. I'm going through that with Logan. I've seen 2 different trailers, or maybe even 3 different trailers for Logan, and I'm still sitting there going, nope. I mean, of course, I've gone through this before. I went through this with The Hunger Games, which I did not read the books. I know, bad me. But the first couple of times I saw the trailer, I was like, nope. Then we went and saw the movie, and pretty much through the first half of the movie, I was like, nope, not feeling it. Don't care about any of these characters. By the end of the movie, I had actually changed my mind. What finally had changed my mind was watching the friendship blossom between Katniss and Rue, and then what happens to Rue in the movie, and that just really, I was like, that was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I really do care. And ever since then, I was like a huge Hunger Games fan of the movies. I still haven't read the books. I know, bad me. But, you know, it was like one of those things, like I said, you're like sitting there going, when am I going to feel excited about this movie? And I have been an enormous fan of Hugh Jackman as Logan. Wolverine's always been one of my favorite X-Men besides Beast. Fine, he's blue and fuzzy and smart, don't judge me. But I've always liked Logan, and the fact that, you know, Hugh Jackman's playing Logan, I mean, fucking come on. Seriously, it's Hugh fucking Jackman, you know, come on. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I keep sitting there like, okay, gonna feel it this time. No, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe it'll hit me when I get in the theater. I don't know. And speaking of stuff hitting you, let's get to this week's Supernatural episode recap that's gonna hit you right between the eyes.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest.
Season 12, Episode 13 of Supernatural, Family Feud. Then is dealing with a lot of stuff. Then is dealing with the British men of letters who have been a thorn in the Winchester's side and other body parts since the end of last season. And the fact that their mother, Mary, which they don't realize, is working with the men of letters now. Specifically the mysterious and more than a little dangerous Mr. Ketch. We are also reintroduced to Gavin MacLeod, a young man who was the son of Fergus MacLeod, the demon that we now know as Crowley. Gavin was supposed to have died in a shipwreck back in the 1700s, but was brought back to the present time by Abaddon as a bargaining chip to use against Crowley. Gavin was not sent back to his original time. Crowley let him stay and let him live and let him loose in modern times. And that was the last we saw of him, was a while back. We are also reintroduced to the princes of hell, demons that were some of the first demons after Lilith, turned by Lucifer himself, a demon called Ramael, who we found out about last week, and who mentions other demons that are his brothers and sisters, apparently, one of them being a demon called Dagon, who is showing interest in the fact that Lucifer has made a mortal pregnant. Said mortal who is still in the wind. And we get to now. And now begins in Andover, Massachusetts. Woo! Massachusetts, represent! 6 months ago, to be exact. We see a woman in her house getting ready for bed, and that there is something else in her house that she can't see. She gets ready for bed, lies down, and all of a sudden these two ghostly arms shoot up through the bed and sink down into her like they're tearing her apart. She starts screaming and blood splashes a picture, and we get the opening credits. Very reminiscent of the scene where Johnny Depp meets his end in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. We cut back to the present day at the Bat Cave in Lebanon, Kansas, and Sam's on the computer and Dean's on the phone. Dean is talking to Castiel, who is telling him that Kelly Klein, the young former presidential aide who is currently the young woman with the demonic bun in the oven, specifically Lucifer's spawn, is still out there and still cannot be found. Sam's looking at the information on the computer screen, which is about a teacher who was killed in a parking lot of a museum. The teacher's tongue was torn out, which didn't kill him, but having his internal organs crushed did. Sam and Dean suspected it might be witches or ghosts and decide to look into it. But they decide they might also need a little bit of backup. Their backup they're thinking of calling is their mother Mary, who is killing some monsters with a British Men of Letters tech, a gun that turns out to be able to melt Rougarou brains. Something she does under the watchful eye of Mr. Ketch. Mary gets a call from Dean, and it's really interesting when she gets the phone call. As she's talking to Dean, her voice gets much softer. It's a mother talking to her son. Her body language changes. I mean, they're still talking about, supernatural stuff, but she's just happy to talk to her son. You can definitely tell. And she lies to him about what she's doing and why she can't meet with him and Sam and go on this hunt. As inside, I'm just kind of like, a little piece of me starts to wither up and die. I'm like, man, keeping secrets must be a genetic thing with both the Winchesters and the Campbell family. When that whole family was formed by the union of the Winchesters and the Campbells, it just, it spawned some beautiful looking sons, but boy, they're really good at keeping secrets and lying to each other. We cut to hell, where we see that Crowley has Lucifer in chains in a chair, chained up pretty securely, and that Lucifer is in the body of his old vessel, Nick. We find out how this came about we find it out via a flashback that Crowley had tainted the spell that Rowena had set up to send, to exorcise Lucifer from the body of the president, and instead of sending him directly back to the cage in hell where he had been imprisoned for so long, when the spell was kicked off, Lucifer's essence was sent into the body of Nick, who Crowley had gotten a hold of. And Crowley tells Lucifer that they have strengthened Nick's body, apparently, to hold Lucifer, so we won't have Nick, rotting like he was before. And that the chains that are binding Lucifer are chains made from the same material that made the cage. It's very obvious that Crowley intends to break Lucifer. Lucifer seems less than impressed. Boy, nobody knows how to heap scorn like Lucifer. Seriously, I am not kidding. We cut back to what the Winchesters are doing, and we see them driving to the location of the museum. Sam talks about the death of the teacher 6 months earlier in Andover, and Dean is more concerned about Mary and the way she was talking. He feels like there's something going on and she's not being open about it, kind of like Dean usually is. Boy, we know where he gets it from, huh? Sam tries to play it off that, Mom's back into hunting and that, hunting wears away at you. She needs some time. I was a little surprised Sam was kind of that flip about it, but Sam's of the opinion that, she's started hunting again and it's in her blood and she's not gonna quit, And Sam kind of seems to be accepting that more than Dean, probably because Dean remembers her as his mom, his mom when he was 4, this, woman that fixed his, kissed his boo-boos and held him and was just a super mom, I mean, I'm sure Sam doesn't really have those memories. He's only seen his mom from the point of view of when they went back in time and stuff like that, and she was still hunting and all that, back then, except for, mostly not really a lot of hunting, obviously, going on in that one episode where they went back I can't think of the name of the episode now, but the one where they went back to, stop Anna from killing their parents. Anyway, we cut to Iowa where we see a scout leader getting his little charges ready to leave the museum. He goes into the men's room to relieve himself and winds up being attacked and killed by this spirit. We cut back to the museum in the daytime. We see Sam and Dean in their Fed suits looking absolutely delicious as always. And they're talking with the person that runs the museum, one of the directors, and she tells them that there have been some new exhibits put out recently. Only one of them has been, all of the material is out there now. And they've got all these new things for this new exhibit. We cut to a diner where we see Kelly Klein sitting at a table, looking pregnant, and the waitress kind of speaks to her for a minute, and she's pretty kind to her. The thing is, when the waitress turns away, we see her eyes flash blue, and we know she's an angel. And we know that the angels are not real happy about this whole fact that, oh, by the way, Lucifer got some woman knocked up. Sam and Dean look over the material in the museum, and one of the things that is there is part of a ship called the Star, which was a ship that came from Europe and sunk in 1773. This was the ship that Gavin MacLeod was supposed to have sailed on. The ship that he originally sailed on and had died on. But, that was the original history until Abaddon went back and plucked him out of time. So they know that it's got something to do with Gavin anyway. We cut back to hell, where Lucifer is again doing what he does best and sowing seeds of doubt in Crowley about whether or not this whole humiliate and destroy Lucifer's plan will work. And he also tells Crowley about the fact that, that whole thing about my offspring being dead, my offspring's not dead. Crowley is, needless to say, not happy about this. And winds up getting a phone call from Dean, who's asking him about Gavin's location, and he finds out from talking with Crowley, Dean finds out that Crowley now knows that that Lucifer's child is still very much alive inside of Kelly. It is not the nicest phone call in the world. The Winchesters wind up, I'm sorry, I jumped a little ahead. We see another group of teachers at this museum leading their students back to a bus after a field trip, and the spirit slips a piece of jewelry into the coat of one of the teachers. We cut back to the museum at night, and the Winchesters have brought in Rowena for help in locating Gavin. In part of the scene, Rowena tries to leave before the Winchesters are ready for her to leave. Sam grabs her arm and very firmly tells her to sit down. Oh boy. You don't think that two little words can really get a girl's heart fluttering, but they can when they're being said by Sam Winchester. I swear if that man told me to get on my knees and bark like a dog, the next word out of my mouth would be woof. We see Kelly leaving, or we see Kelly walking down a street. It's a little bit later at night, and she winds up she's being followed by one person. She ducks behind a building and winds up being attacked by these two angels. They're one on either end of the street, one of them being the waitress from the diner, the other one being a tall African-American man. And both of them wind up being very easily dispatched by a woman with whose eyes flash yellow. We obviously know this is a prince of hell, who stands in front of Kelly, who's cowering on the ground, and holds her hand out and says, "Come with me if you want to live." So we've got demons rescuing people using Terminator quotes. I love Supernatural. If I've never mentioned that before, I love this show. It turns out the demon, to the surprise of absolutely nobody who watched last week's show, is Dagon, this princess of hell, or Prince of Hell, Princess of Hell. I'm not really. I think Prince of Hell would be a little bit more respectful, I suppose. I would almost want to say Princess of Hell because they are in a female vessel, but they may not be female. So Prince of Hell it is. She tells Kelly that she tells Kelly a lot of things. First of all, that all the people trying to kill you and all that, they're angels, and they're obviously not all harps and halos. And the Winchesters, who she may have considered the good guys, they're not really helping you very much either. And she also tells Kelly that the baby that she is carrying is a boy. So Lucifer's child is a son. Yay? Dagon actually brings up some really good points, which is really kind of an odd thing to say about a demon, but okay. The whole idea that this baby doesn't necessarily have to be evil. This baby is not born to be evil incarnate. It doesn't have to be, anyway. Dagon seems to have more of this nature versus nurture idea, when it comes to whether or not this baby is going to be evil incarnate or actually just be a baby. Seeing as how the baby is half archangel, I don't see that happening, but, I might be a little bit too pessimistic. I don't know. And Dagon offers to protect Kelly and her child, which I was like, that's actually really decent of you to do, I guess. Well, actually, yeah, it is kind of. Kelly's an innocent person in this, really. She didn't know she was sleeping with Lucifer. And the baby's a baby. We're not going to get into that whole discussion about whether or not, the unborn child is an unborn child. It's innocent. You hope. I don't know how these things work. I've not really researched it very much. I'll be perfectly frank. We see the Winchesters waiting for somebody at a bus stop. It turns out that it's surprise Gavin, who asks exactly how ill his father is. Sam kind of hedges, and Dean admits they flat out lied to him. Nice. But they do have somebody there for him to meet, and that is his grandmother, Rowena, who is actually quite nice to Gavin, surprisingly enough. She remarks that Gavin looks like her father when he was a young man, which I was like, oh, interesting. They take Gavin to the museum, and he sees what's left of the star, and he starts talking about the star, not only about the star, but about the list of people that were going to be on the star with him. This person, that person. One of the people he brings up was a school teacher. It turns out that this piece of jewelry is actually a locket, and it's the locket that we saw earlier on in the episode. The locket was actually a gift from Gavin to a young woman named Fiona Duncan, who was a girl that Gavin was in love with. And she knew he was going to leave Scotland, and she wanted to go with him. And she was definitely going to go with him come hell or high water. And the thing is, it turns out that the locket, needless to say, when Dean goes and checks, it's not where it's supposed to be, because we know where it is. We cut to Mary, who is leaving a car with Mr. Ketch, and declines his offer of a drink. And Mr. Ketch then makes a remark that Mary should try and... The whole thing is that she should limit her time. Basically, he's basically telling her that she should cut off her time being around Sam and Dean. That he basically tells her, in so many ways, he's telling her that she's a better hunter than she is a mother. She's more cut out to be a hunter than a mom. And Mary is not happy about that remark. I'm kind of like, she kind of looks at him like if they weren't in public and she'd shoot him right where he was. It turns out that, what we find out from Gavin and we find out from what happened with Fiona was that Gavin, the night that Gavin was kidnapped by Abaddon in the past, after he was taken by Abaddon, Fiona had shown up and at his room and found out that he wasn't there. But she went and snuck onto the Star anyway, because she probably thought that he had left a little early. So she went to the Star and got on and hid, trying to stay with Gavin. Sam and Dean find out from the woman that works at the museum who the latest bunch of kids were that came by on a field trip, and that they were students from the Pembroke Day School for Girls. We cut to the school where we see the two teachers that we had seen earlier leaving the school, after the field trip, and the ghost starts wreaking havoc, flinging around furniture and knocking pictures off the wall, cold spots, light flickering, the whole bit. The ghost appears and kills one of the teachers and goes after the second teacher, until Sam and Dean, appear in the room, open the door, come into the room and Dean blasts the ghost with rock salt and banishes her for a little while. Gavin winds up summoning the ghost through a ritual probably taught to him very quickly by Rowena, and Fiona appears, and at first she appears all looking, crusty and scary and everything like ghosts usually do. But it turns out that she changes when she sees Gavin, and she looks like this pretty girl again. And she tells him what happened. And it turns out that what happened was that she had smuggled herself onto the Star because she thought Gavin was still on the boat someplace, and that, they would be together. The problem was that when she was found by the other passengers, she was, treated very badly and abused and raped, and that when this teacher that she had known told Fiona that she was responsible for her own fate because she had gone chasing after Gavin. When the ship sank, she wound up becoming a ghost, and she had this hatred in her for people who are teachers and figures of authority like the Scoutmaster. And because she's tied to the grounds and stuff like that, and to the locket and all that, she was killing teachers and people that say they are there to protect children, because she was still so angry. And the Winchesters and Gavin decide what they're going to do about this, because they obviously can't burn Fiona's bones because they don't have them. The bones are at the bottom of the ocean, so that's out. They can't just destroy the locket, but the one thing they figure out that they can do, because just destroying the locket won't bring back the people Fiona's killed, but what they can do is if they can find a way to send, which they know about, to send Gavin back to the Star before the ship sinks. And if Gavin is on the ship and dies when the ship sinks like he was supposed to do, that means he and Fiona will die together, and Fiona won't be a ghost, and the people in the future won't die. And Gavin, instead of, I would kind of think most people would be like, what? But Gavin isn't like that. He is of the opinion that that needs to, that needs to happen. That this is the right thing to do, all the way around. As it turns out, this is something that he's talking about with Sam Dean and Rowena. Somebody else has a different opinion, that somebody else being Crowley, who is of the opinion that this is not happening, that he's not going to lose Gavin again. At least here he knows, in this time, he knows Gavin is alive. I mean, he hasn't been part of Gavin's life since he wound up letting Gavin loose in the 20th century when we saw that back in season 9 in the episode King of the Damned. But you kind of wonder from Crowley's actions and the way he's talking, I don't know about you all, but I'm kind of wondering if he wasn't keeping an eye on Gavin. I kind of have a feeling he was, because he's very much of the opinion that this is not happening. He's not losing his son again. When Gavin tells him that he wants to do this, and Crowley asks him, then why did you call me? Gavin says that he called him to say goodbye. Crowley makes a move to try and, grab Gavin and teleport him away, but Rowena freezes him in place with a spell, and the Winchesters and Gavin leave. We see Sam and Dean and Gavin back at the Bat Cave, and Sam and Dean put together the ritual to send Gavin back to his proper time, to his death. And Gavin is reunited for a moment with Fiona's ghost, and they smile and look at each other and go back to their own time, where they're fated to die. And at the risk of sounding like a hopelessly soppy romantic, if you have to die, I hope Gavin and Fiona got to die in each other's arms. And I hope that their heaven is the two of them together. I do. I hope that. And we get a commercial break. When we come back, Sam's doing research and finds out that all of the people that Fiona had killed have been returned to life. The time is re-straightened itself out, and maybe this is the way things were always supposed to be. Don't really know. Mary shows up at the Bat Cave with food and beer, and the truth. Amazingly. Mary tells the brothers that she has been working with the British men of letters, and Sam and Dean, needless to say, are beyond not happy about this. Sam bringing up, broken ribs and burnt feet, and doesn't bring up the sexual assault done by Lady Tony. Fucking bitch. He does bring up that they don't trust the Brits. And Dean says, so where does that leave us? Mary's response is same as always. Family. Just hear me out, please. We see Rowena sitting in a bus stop, probably the same bus stop where they had picked Gavin up. And she and Crowley are talking. And as it turns out, all the stuff that she had said to Gavin and all of the kindness, I don't think all of the kindness, though. I think some of the kindness, was real. But I think some of it wasn't. I think a lot of it was her setting Crowley up for a fall. She tells him that it was payback for Oscar. Oscar being the young man that she had given eternal youth, or at least slowing down his aging process until it stopped at one point, that she was forced to kill to release Dean from the mark of Cain. She tells Crowley, it allowed me to watch you suffer the loss of a child. To which Crowley responds, payback. Rowena's answer is, I'm your mother, dear. Who better to crush your shriveled heart? And the episode ends with several different shots in a montage. The montage being set to the Rolling Stones song Play With Fire, which has actually been used before in the episode The Man Who Knew Too Much in season 6. The montage is mostly, it's different shots leading back to one shot. It's a shot of Mary trying to explain her actions to Sam and Dean, cutting back to Lucifer sitting in the chair. It's Crowley sitting there thinking about losing his son again, Lucifer sitting back in the chair. And Dagon and her new friend, Kelly, and Lucifer sitting back in the chair. And Lucifer kind of tilting his head back, and this almost smile on his face, and very softly saying Dagon's name. And the episode ends. I really enjoyed Family Feud. I thought it was a really well done episode. I know a lot of people are like, well, it didn't have a lot of Sam and Dean on it. I'm like, no, it didn't have an awful lot, but when they were there, I definitely thought that everybody did a great job. And I am one of these people that feels like the supernatural universe is big enough that we don't need to have Sam and Dean on screen every single second. We can actually pay attention to other characters sometime. That's just my own opinion, for what it's worth, whatevs. I definitely want to bring up Theo Devaney, who plays Gavin in this episode. He played Gavin back in season 9 in King of the Damned and plays him again in this episode. I think Theo did a fantastic job. I really, really love what he did. I feel sad that we're not going to get to see Gavin anymore, because I always kind of wondered what happened to him. I was always like, oh gosh, I wonder what he's doing now. But it sounds like, in a lot of ways, Gavin's kind of the supernatural version, the supernatural version, universe version of Steve Rogers, Marvel's Captain America, and a man out of time. And unfortunately, he never found the home that Steve found with the Avengers, which I think is really kind of sad. I remember the name of that episode from season 5. The song remains the same. I'm sorry, I completely blanked on that episode. I'm so sorry. I give Family Feud 4 bouquets out of 5. I enjoyed it. I really thought it was a good episode, and it really helped the story move along. Next week's episode, The Raid. We know that it involves Mary and the British men of letters trying to snuff out a nest of vamps, and we know that the alpha vampire is involved with this episode, which means Sam and Dean are going to have to probably rescue their mom from literally the jaws of death. Or undeath, depending on the way you look at things. And the fact that this episode is named after a super uber violent Korean action movie, I will not lie, has me very, very, very nervous. But I guess we'll all have to wait together and check it out. Okay, cats and kittens, before I go, I want to bring up something a little different this week. I like to try and keep you guys up to date when I find something new or cool online that I think that you might want to check out. One of the things that I like to do is read fanfic. I also like to write fanfic, Platinum Rose Lady at fanfiction.net or an archive of our own if you'd like to check out my work. And if I find somebody's fic that I really like, I want to bring up their stuff, because I feel like, fan fiction writers work just as hard as professional writers and should be acknowledged for good stuff. I found this absolutely wonderful story over on fanfiction.net, and I want to bring it up to you guys. It's a story called Through Time, and it's by an author named Mir-Catnip. It is a story about a boy and his stuffed tiger. Yes, it is a Calvin and Hobbes fanfic. And the fact that Calvin meets a very special person over and over and over again. It is a Calvin and Hobbes Doctor Who crossover fanfic, and it is really, really well written, beautiful, funny, heartbreaking, and just all around a good piece of work. So if you go over to fanfiction.net, you can type in the author's name in the search engine. It's MEER-KATNIP, or you can look it up by the title, which is Through Time. I definitely hope you'll check them out, and if you do, please, let them know, and that would be really awesome and cool. It's a really great story. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So, this is going to do it for another week here on Platinum Rose's Garden. I would like to talk to you about the other shows I am involved with my dear, sweet, long-suffering husband, T.C. Kirkham, The Wind Beneath My Wings, The Apple of My Eye, The Peanut Butter to My Jelly, The Brain to My Pinky. He is the person that puts together our great shows, so round of applause to him. We do a show together called Subject Cinema, which is our movie podcast where we do movie news and reviews and goofy stuff and dramatic chipmunk and all kinds of fun things that we do. And we have lots of fun over at subjectcinema.com. I hope you'll check that out. There is also our list show, Front Row 5 and 10, where we have all kinds of fun lists. And if you have an idea for a list show, please send it to us and we'll definitely use it. And TC has a solo show. He figured if I have my own show, he should have his own show. And he's quite right. His show is called Catastrophe Vortex. And it is about disaster movies. And by disaster movies, I don't mean things like The Room. I mean like real disaster movies, like movies about earthquakes and floods and fires and plane crashes and boats flipping over and all kinds of fun stuff like that. If you are into disaster movies, please check out Catastrophe Vortex. It is a fun show. He puts a lot of work into it, and it's a great, great thing to listen to. There is also another member of our little podcasting family, which is Cavebabble, the show done by Eric and Valerie, the Lion family, and their kids and assorted guests and whomever happens to be by that day. They are some really fun, awesome people, and I hope you will check them out. And that's going to do it for this episode of Platinum Rose's Garden, kids. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, queries, money, anything you'd like to send my way, send it to platinumroselle@yahoo.com. Put PRG in the header, and I will know you want me to read it on the air. I would love to hear from you guys, and even if you have any critiques, that would be great. And that's going to do it for another week here. So this is Platinum Rose Lady signing off for another week, reminding you to love the ones you hug the ones you love, and take some time to stop and smell the roses. I'll see you around, guys. Bye.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.